Today's lesson, the student will solve rational equations. So hopefully right now you're thinking about what the word rational means, and hopefully you're like, oh yeah, we learned last chapter that rational means anything that can be turned into a fraction. So we're going to solve equations that have fractional numbers. So remember, when we solve an equation, the goal is to isolate. We want to get the variable all by itself. There are 3 steps. The first step you may or may not have to do, and that is simplify the equation. So from chapter 2, we learned how to distribute and combine like terms. Then the second step is we cover up the variable, or if you have a highlighter, we're going to highlight wherever the variable is. Okay, and then let's cross this out. Okay, then the third step is we divide. We need to get rid of the number with the variable term by dividing. So if we look at example 1 right here, if I can't simplify, so I cover up the variable term. There's nothing there, so I'm ready for step 3. I need to get rid of this number with the variable. So I need to divide. So divide by 4/7, divide by 4/7. That cancels out because it equals 1x. And then over here we have 12 divided by, we have a complex fraction right here, so it could be written as 12 divided by 4/7. And then we got to multiply by the reciprocal. We get 21. But why do all of this work here? When you know we can't divide if there's a fraction in front of the variable. Instead of dividing with fractions, why not just multiply by the reciprocal? So if there is a fraction when you are dividing, multiply by the reciprocal. So instead of dividing by 4/7, what I would rather see is multiplying by 7/4. And the reason why that works is everything makes 1. This equals 1x. So then whatever we do to one side, we have to do on this side. So we're going to multiply by 7/4. So 12 times 7/4 is 21. 21. So this just looks easier to read than all of this. So this means that multiplying both sides by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing. Okay, so let's do some examples here. Let's take a look at example 2. Go ahead and put a 20 there. I'm going to do them on a separate sheet of paper so I have more room here. So step 1 is to simplify. I can't simplify the left, I can't simplify the right, so I'm going to highlight the variable. And if there's nothing there on the outside of what I highlighted, I'm ready to divide. But it's a fraction, so I can't divide. Instead, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, because then I get 30 over 30, which this equals 1m. Whatever we do to this side, we have to come over here and do on this side. So we're going to, it's a multiplication problem here. 5 goes into 5 once, 5 goes into 24 times, and then 4 times 6 is 24. 1 times 1 is 1, but we don't need to put a 1 in the denominator. Okay, let's take a look at example 3. So we can't simplify. We're going to highlight the variable term. It is by itself, so we're ready for step 3. We're going to divide, but it's a fraction, so instead of dividing, dividing is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So the reciprocal, remember that negative, we ignore it, it comes along, and the reciprocal, we're going to flip-flop these, we get 12 sevenths, negative 12 sevenths. This is going to cancel out. And remember why this has to be negative, because a negative times a negative is a positive 1. Everything makes 1 here. So we want a positive 1x, so you need that negative there. And then we're going to multiply this side by a negative 12 sevenths. So 7 goes into 14 twice. So we have x equals negative 24. Okay, let's take a look at example 4. So we can't simplify that side, so I'm going to highlight the variable term, and that's where I need to start if there's anything on the outside of this. So I need to get rid of that negative 20 by putting a positive 20 here, so now that's 0. So now this is all by itself. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do on the other side of the equal. So we got positive 4 equals, and now that this is all by itself, now we can multiply by the reciprocal. Since we can't divide with fractions, we're going to multiply by 4/3, so that this cancels. Since I multiply by 4/3 here, I need to multiply this side by 4/3. So we got 16, 4 times 4 is 16, 3 times 1 is 3, because we can't cross simplify. Okay, let's take a look at number 5. So we can't simplify, no like terms, no distributive properties. So step 2, I'm going to highlight. And then we're going to subtract 5. Now this is all by itself. So instead of dividing, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. That negative just comes along, and if we flip-flop these, we get 3, right? Or you could put the 1 there, but this cancels. They're reciprocals. We proved in section 5.3 reciprocals equal 1. That equals 1. Whatever we do here, we have to do on this side, so we need to multiply this side by negative 3. So we get x equals negative 18. Okay, last example, example 6. If someone would get the sub to pause the video, then I would like for you to go ahead and try this problem on your own. So please pause the video. Once everyone has solved this problem, then please continue and push play so you could see if you got the right answer. So there's nothing you can simplify, so I'm going to cover up the variable, add 2. Then, since this is all by itself, the last step is always to divide, but no dividing with fractions. We're going to multiply by the reciprocal. A negative times a negative is a positive. And then 2 goes into itself once, 2 goes into 8 4 times, and we get positive 12. If you have any questions, you can contact me on Edmodo this evening. The sub will now pass out your homework. There shouldn't be any homework this weekend because you should be able to get this assignment done in class. The answer key is posted in the back. One person at a time can go check their answer and make sure to be good for the sub. See you on Monday.